My name is Gianni Russo, a.k.a. Carlo, the infamous son-in-law from The Godfather. I'm now known as the Hollywood Godfather, and this is my story.
Before all of the wins in my portfolio, I was a little boy diagnosed with polio. Experimenting with cures, I tried every one. Felt everything in my right, but my left was numb. Walking with a limp, like will I ever run? Once again, or is this it? Am I forever done? Living in the hospital was never fun. Some people were cool, but not everyone.
Good evening, everybody. It's time for another Hollywood Godfather podcast. Fortunately, and fortunately for me, my co-host, Jeannie Raymond, is with us again and again and again and again. Thank God for that.
Thank
How are you,
you.
my love?
I'm good. How are you? So good to see you.
Well, it's always good to see you. And I love what we're talking about tonight. The subject matter came up to me by a gentleman that I've been working with now almost 2 decades, Steve Meyerson, my musical director,
Oh, nice.
who's also a teacher at university. But it's interesting because he said to me that, Johnny, you have so many kids. Have you seen the transition on certain generations? I said, well, how could I have not have? I mean, they're kids, and my transition starts from the 60s, to 8, 9 years old because of grandchildren. But and I'm sure you have the same situation, with your children, grandchildren. But he's saying to me, which I don't know much about, because I knew about COVID, we all did. But he's saying he's seeing personality swings from COVID and the vaccine. And
I've heard a lot of that. It's funny, and I don't know if it's the shot or getting COVID. There's a gal here in where I live, and they said, oh, she was a lot different to deal with before she had COVID, but since she had COVID, she's gotten kind of weird, and how it's just made such big changes in people and the way people's personalities, like you said, have changed so much. I know one thing is people shop at home, people hunker down in their houses, aren't used to socializing anymore. And when you're referring to kids, I have friends that had babies during COVID. So these little babies didn't leave the house, did not get socialized. You can see their social skills they're afraid of people, and I just thought how sad to be so sheltered at first, so just getting them around other people was really kind of a switch, and that's just for little ones. But even the big kids, I have a grandson, he will be 12 in a week here, and he loves school. Absolutely loves school. In fact, when he went to Italy last year, he was going to go to Italy, and I can't even remember where else. And he said, Grandma, I'm not going. I'm not missing that much school.
Well, that's wild. That's wild that he likes school.
Yeah.
To me, with for you out there who read my book, my childhood, I never really experienced so many things that normal kids do, meaning going to school and all of that. I basically was quarantined for 5 years, and then I hit the streets, and I was just grateful to be out and do, and I just couldn't do enough. But I see it even with my grandchildren. They're so different and apart. I mean, but again, it's mine's not of the norm.
Right.
I have 10 mothers to my kids, and every walk of life, you think about it, and from Romania to everywhere. But for him, because he's a father, Steve's a father of an only son, which I always tell people, if you're going to have more than one kid, than have three, because you might as well just, but only children are really, and what's so unique about my life, I had 10 mothers who had 10 only sons. And when I say that to people, how can it be that? I said, well, they all had one son. That's it.
Wow.
So
No
basically,
other
I
children?
have 10 only children.
Wow.
But I
Wow.
could see the transition of that, but it wasn't about the attention they got. Some of them was that attention they didn't get.
Right.
I have one son whose mother was a crackhead. I didn't know about that until she tried to bring me to court. And then I did some research and I showed up unbeknownst to her. And when the judge, called the case to order, that's when I walked into court because I didn't want to make a big grandstand out of it. But I was there concerned once I
Yeah.
knew that this kid being raised by a crackhead. And I was willing to, offer more money. That's when they had the deadbeat dad things going on. And they didn't even have to get a lawyer. Just go to district attorney and said I was a deadbeat dad, which I wasn't. But that's why I'm saying for me to sit back, I didn't know whether my grandsons or my kids have a lot of reason not to like me. I'm not normal because I'm all over the place. I'm very selfish. I do what I want to do. And I didn't have kids because I plan on having them. I blame a lot of it on my boat. And after 90 days, somebody was on my boat. They'd call me and say, I'm with child. I'd say, oh, great. Congratulations. She says, it's yours, idiot. So, I mean, I'm not of the norm at all. But when you take a guy like Steve and his wife, they have one child, they're both educated. In fact, his wife is a teacher for special children.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, these are really
Good.
John Q. public, educated, the norm,
Right.
more than norm. And I'm sure your family is.
Well, we're not normal by any means, but
Oh, okay.
no, I mean, well, my one grandson that's an only child, his mom works at the university, and then my son works is a head coach at a high school. So he's got it, and he's an only child. He's got a great little life, but he's got cousins, and it makes such a big difference. I have my sister that just passed away. She had one daughter, but you'd have never known she was an only child because my two boys were in her age range. And so they were just all together all the time. So, but it's very different for kids that just live by themselves. I know my 2-year-old grandbaby was over there at their house for a couple of hours, and pretty soon she was getting in his stuff and wanting to eat his cereal and just being two. And he was like, boy, she's kind of a pain. He adores her, but he was thinking, man, I always think I want someone around, but when they're around, they're messing in your stuff. So
Well, yeah, I mean, that's another thing. I mean, when you have an only child, he's the king of the kingdom, or she's the queen of the kingdom. So they're not
exactly.
used to that. So, I mean, to try to analyze it, I thought it was interesting because, again, me in my lifestyle, fortunately and unfortunately, I did what I did, and I don't apologize for it. It's just who I was and am. Yeah,
Right.
but this COVID thing, and I think now that we have a new president, not to mention his name, but I'm happy he's in. Not that
Right.
it's very political, but I happen to like Donald, and
Right.
it's going to be interesting because what we talk about COVID, the main guy who was the focus of all of our education about COVID, responsible, demanding you take the vaccines, was Dr. Fauci. Where is he now?
Well, someone told me last week that they were, did he leave the country?
I have no idea.
I don't either. I don't follow that at all. I've spent very little time, but yeah, old Fauci is having to answer some questions lately, I hear. And, I think that all that's going to do is piss a bunch of people off because of the lies that we're told, and maybe they're good and bad to everything, but what's done is done. And it's it'll be interesting to see what changes are made if something like that comes along again.
The only thing is that, again, in a comparison, we all have challenges as we grow up. I think most people do. And mine was polio, which has been abolished, fortunately.
Yes.
And I was more than willing to take the salt vaccine. I was part of the experiment.
Right.
And I remember the first time when they had the first batch. And now understand, I'm a Catholic kid. I went to church all the time with my grandmother before I was hospitalized. And that's all I knew. It was God.
Right.
And I prayed to God, I don't know how many times a day, because what else would I have to do to begin with? And I'm not talking about a hospital room with televisions and all that. There was no entertainment. But I could remember when they announced the breakthrough with Jonas Salk has a drug that he thinks it's going to work. And they split our 20-bed ward in half. 10 kids got it and 10 didn't. And I didn't get it. And I was so mad. I mean, it's hard to say I was mad at God, but I was.
Yeah.
Confused kid saying, what? First I'm here so many years, going through all of this. Now you got a vaccine and I ain't getting that. What'd I do wrong? I was looking at my own self saying, why am I being punished?
Right. I can't even imagine, after you lay there all that time. For a little kid, Gianni, I can't sit still 5 minutes. You want to torture me, make me sit in a meeting where I can't move around. But I think of that all the time, and I'm thinking, that is torture that you went through.
But you don't know it's torture because, if you have nothing to compare it to.
Right.
As we reflect on it now.
Right.
But even now, as I do, he was on a mission, talking about God with me. And look what I have today.
Yeah.
So all my suffering was up until I was 12. And I have to say, I've never suffered again. And I don't, maybe it was just my attitude. But to carry on with the story, the 10 kids that got the first batch, they all died within 72 hours. It escalated the virus.
Oh, you're kidding. Oh.
So now I had to take that as an omen because I used to talk to God. I still talk to God.
Sure.
To myself, and that's how I pray. But I had to apologize to him because I thought, he forgot me.
Garth Brooks has a song called Unanswered Prayers, and that's exactly, you just think, your prayers were answered. They just weren't answered at your timing. That's for sure.
But see, even that lesson in life, it taught me patience.
Right.
I learned from my experiences, fortunately. And I don't, I don't know what other people do, but I've heard, and I have, some kids are angry and always will be. It's just who they are.
Right.
And, I don't blame the mothers of my kids because they had a good reason to throw me under the bus. Although they were all living in houses and the kids were educated, but nobody told anybody who did that for them. But I didn't want the accolades anyway. But to hear common people, like Steve and his wife with one son, they're recognizing this, and not as a comparison to their son, but his other students.
Oh.
Because he teaches in a school. She teaches in a school, and and Steve is a well-acclaimed producer, like in Atlantic City. He has a show right now.
Oh wow!
He's there for a month. I mean, so he's varied in so many ways. But to hear him bring the attention to some kids that are his students as musicians and how they're in shells. But I don't know whether we're being too analytical now and we're trying to blame a reason.
Yeah.
You're a parent and you have different variations of children. And what are you seeing as far as?
Well, it's so wild now. I go, like I said, my son teaches at a high school. And so I go over to the football games because he's a coach, and to see all the different kids. And the one thing I've noticed is everybody seems to want to not fit in. That's the biggest thing I've seen, biggest change, and it may have come anyway. But the freakier they can make themselves look, the better. It seems like they're so spun out. I think the internet has caused a bunch of confusion. That's my opinion. I don't know anything.
Oh, well, that's all we're talking about. But I can understand that because, the influence from the outside now.
Oh, it's all from social media.
You can't control it. I mean, these kids have access to the media and the world.
Right.
Never did.
Yeah, I've got I know someone that they have a child, and one day they look like a boy, one day they look like a girl. They want to be non-binary. I can't keep up with that stuff. It's not that I don't care, but I thought, I wonder how their life would be without the internet. And
that's an interesting thing, because as you know now, one of the platforms in the last election is transgender. And how, I guess being a trans person has been around us all our life. My older sister is, she was a missionary sister. She was abused by the nuns as a young age and was confused of what's right and what's wrong. And then, now basically she's passed, unfortunately, but she was a stone dyke, man. And I don't know why, she was a male part. But now, we're trying to give them their own identity, which I think is even more confusing. Now we're going to have 3 different genders.
Well, that's what I can't, there's some people. I went to my class reunion, and I have a friend and born a female, and she is transitioned, and now she's a he, and he walked in, and it almost made me cry. I have never been so happy for someone, because it was like this person, I've never understood it as much or gave it much thought until he now walked in. And I'm thinking, as a woman that's like a shorter, stockier build, you look like a dude, you act like a dude, you know what I mean? And here he came in, had a full beard, and looked just.
The woman had a full beard?
Yes, because he's
from hormones or something?
Yes, but for this person, that to me is the person that person should have always been. I don't, but there's so many kids nowadays, I think, with social media and all of the things they see. I wonder, I'm like, I don't know how they could possibly decide what they wanted to do.
Well, I think so too. I'm glad you're saying that, because just watching television, even, I'm watching how most commercials, married couples are of mixed color.
Oh, everyone, yeah.
They're not, I mean, I'm picturing my grandchildren watching television. This is during the normal hour. There was times you couldn't even talk about liquor on television till after 10 o'clock.
Or even say someone
They talk about off-track betting during dinner. And kids want to lay bets now. I'm saying, what's this about? And so, I mean, again, the confusion is so overwhelming.
Right.
That's,
Well,
but that to me is the bigger problem.
well, sexuality, I think, is not to get too far crazy, but I mean, there are some people there, not everybody, but there would be one or two here and there you'd encounter, and you could see that they just don't seem to fit in their skin. It's almost, you just are like, this person just it's not what it should have been. But nowadays, it's like there's very few people that are just one or the other. Everybody's so confused, and I'm okay with, well, I think I feel sorry for them because society is making it so hard to pick a spot and be okay. But the new one, it's not new. I guess I shouldn't say that at all, is the kids that come to school that think they're a cat. They literally were putting litter boxes in bathrooms for these children.
Are you kidding me?
I wish I was, Gianni. And I just thought, you're out of your
No,
mind.
let's clarify that for our audience too. These children go to
Go to
the
school,
bathroom in a litter box?
their paws all day long. They don't talk when you speak to them. They meow like a cat. And then they had, in the schools, I can't imagine how the schools are. Their hands are tied. They, you can't mess with them. I keep thinking, how did these kids not get bullied? Well, you can't bully anybody, which I am in agreement, but they come to school and just play like a cat all day.
Well, hold that thought. I think we should make some money.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm doing all the commercials myself because I've gotten tremendous reaction. And I want to thank the whole audience out there because a lot of you went to bought the app of Cameo. And
Nice.
Cameo is a great gift for many reasons because whatever you ask me to say, I'll modify it, make it mine. But this is a lasting gift. And I've been doing so many of them, fortunately. And I just want to thank you all. But for you who are not aware of it, go to the App Store, buy Cameo. Then you could go on and you make a request. Not just me, so many stars are on it. And whoever your favorite star is, they will send a message to a dear one, a group. I just did a group. They had a dinner and they had me on like for 3 or 4 minutes talking just in general. And then everybody else was sending me messages later,
Oh,
which
I love that.
it's phenomenal. So anybody is looking for a unique gift for Christmas, birthdays, or whatever, it's a long-lasting one because it's on your phone and you can open it, show it to people, share it with people. So Cameo, I recommend for so many reasons, and it's a gift that, believe me, is so unique. So
Well,
all you
Christmas
out there,
time.
go to Cameo, and I'll do whatever you want me to, or say whatever you want me to say, not do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's get
Now's a
that
great
straight.
time to do it. Everyone's having their company Christmas parties. So
Yeah.
definitely I'll make sure we've got the link to get to you in the show notes so people can click right on there and get those. What a unique gift. That's awesome.
But to get back to, I remember as a kid, I had an uncle, Uncle Petey, his name was. And he always spoke differently than any other man that I knew.
Right.
So I asked my grandmother, who I was very close to, I said, why does Uncle Petey talk like that? She said, oh, he's hard of hearing. So when he pronounces things, it's very pronounced. But he had a lisp and he was gay. But then they never mentioned it.
Yeah.
That kind of thing was like taboo.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
But again, I'm wondering now, and I'd like to hear from our audiences of what they've experienced and send us in the mail. My thought is maybe it was better to keep it a secret and let them deal with it on their own than bring it out to them because I'm seeing so many strange things going on. And like you said, the world is exposed to it now. And I myself, I get these alerts from all the social medias
Oh
how
yeah,
many hours I spent a week this week on it and all that,
oh
Instagram and all that. And
yeah,
but I'm addicted to it too because it's opened a window to me throughout the
yeah,
world.
right.
It's the greatest encyclopedia in the world because you just ask it a question, and I don't care what it is, it gives you the answer or a variation of answers.
Right. May not be the right answer, but hey, it'll tell you something. Yeah, I know it's an ever changing world, and you just you look at how that is. My friend today was telling me about there's another podcast that how people that are doing things like OnlyFans and that I don't know, I guess it's a podcast or a show where it's people trying to find to match. I don't think the show's a matchmaking thing, but they're maybe telling these people what they're doing wrong and why they're not finding a date. And
And who are the people giving the information? Are they
I
doctors?
don't know. I just heard about it today at lunchtime, but
Oh,
he was telling me that people nowadays, and I think this probably also comes from the internet giving us such great advice and everybody on there telling you how wonderful they are. But these people were saying how fabulous they were, and I thought, well, it's gone. I think maybe a little overboard for people just think they're fantastic no matter what. And I hope people want to. My son once told me, "I never want to work as hard as I've had to watch you, Mom." And but I just think you wonder how people just expect a lot because the internet tells you that they should. I think that's a definite change in generations because I grew up. When I grew up, I knew dang well you had to work your butt off, and that's how you get what you need. That's how you take care of your
right,
stuff, you
right.
take care of your kids, and so uh, that's another big thing. One of the biggest changes I've seen from when I was younger is nobody wants to work. I,
Oh yeah, everybody's
it's
entitled.
incredible. It's incredible to me how many
But I
people.
think a lot of that came from COVID, as I know it, because I mean, we have here, I don't know how many office buildings that are empty because they're all working from home now. Now they want them all to come back. They don't want to.
Oh
It's,
yeah,
you know,
I worked in an office. I drove an hour to work and an hour and a half back every day. I love being in the office. It's an hour for me to get there, but I love being in there. I love socializing around, seeing my friends, dealing with the veterans. And now I've never wanted to work from home. I like
yeah.
interacting. But nowadays they're talking, the Air Force Base is asking them to come back more often. I hear IRS is asking that as well. So I would imagine we're going to be on that list sooner or later, and people are in an uproar. And I say, you had to drive to work before,
I know, but see,
but they're
again, I think
right
all
out.
it is, I don't know what, who am I to say what my life is one dimensional and it just keeps going to the right direction financially and everything else. But I don't know. I mean, if even kids coming out of school, and I have a bunch of kids in school right now, and they're so confused. They don't know what they want to do. I have
Yeah,
two kids becoming a doctor,
nice.
and then they're saying do because they're going with the one kid. I mean, Antonio is going. He's doing 16 hours day shifts. They're trying to break him into what they may have to do. And he
Sure.
said, Dad, maybe I'll become an anesthesiologist instead of a general practitioner. I
Yeah,
don't know, but it's something that I don't know how you stop it
right. They're
because
a
it's
little more
nobody's
pampered
nobody
than
yeah
in my day.
yeah no, nobody's putting their instruments down, iPads, whatever they call them. I mean, there's so many of them, I don't even know the name of them. But
Right.
it'll be interesting, and I mean this to our audience. We would really like to hear what you're going through, and if just send the cards and letters in because that's one of the purposes of that Jeannie and I decided to use this format and not have guests because we'd been told that you like it better. And we basically are ruled by our mailbag and the people that, respond to us, we respond back to you.
Right.
This is really something that I don't know if there is an answer to it, because it's so broad.
Right. Well, I do know in the workforce nowadays, it's kind of commonplace to, a lot of people, they're pretty demanding as opposed to when I got a job. I was thankful to get a job. I was like, I'll mop the floors, I'll do whatever it takes to get the job.
Right.
But nowadays they don't want to come in, they don't want to work at work, they want to work from home. And they have all the demands on that side of the table and are.
Well, again, I think subconsciously they heard this and they thought they had the right.
Oh yeah,
like you said, when I was a kid, I had a job. Whatever the boss told me to do, I did. I didn't tell him what I wasn't going to do.
Oh, absolutely.
They should be out the door.
Well, the gal that worked with us a while back, she asked me one time, we had asked her to do something, and she said, well, that's a lower grade GS that should do that. And then, well, that's a higher grade GS that should do that. And I turned around and that's like your GS 7, 8, or 9. That's your ranking at what your pay is.
I don't even know that. You get ranked now?
Yeah, well, it's just what you hire on at. It's your salary.
Oh.
So, and she said, and so she asked, and I finally turned around and said, you know what? I'm super busy. And I have never one time ever in any job I've ever been, but especially not this one where we need something done, stop to think what level of person should be sending this letter. Send the damn letter. Just send it. No one asked you to evaluate the grade of the person who should be doing it. The letter needs to go out. Send it out. And I just was like, yikes. I just can't even imagine. Instead of getting the job done, she was concerned that she was a little too over, qualified to send it. And I just thought, oh my God. But
see, I mean, again, maybe we've given them too much, the world, too many options.
Well, I'm always just thankful I have a job.
I remember when I had a job, I was just thankful if I was working. I worked for, basically limited group of people, but yeah. I was so thankful. I was humble. I didn't tell them, where and when I'd go. When they told me you go, and I left.
Yeah,
and enjoyed it.
When you work for the government, there's a little line in there that says other duties as assigned. Plus, I never even stopped to think if my boss said, we need this done. I'm like, all right, give it to me. I never stopped to think, no, I don't want to do that. That's not on that paper that my job description was on. I said to somebody, they said something about my job description. And I said, I have no idea what my job description says. I do what needs to be done. That's what I do. But it's funny that people think they can stick by that, and then if you don't let them do that, then you just file a complaint. But
let me ask you a question. Not knowing how many people are in your audience, I mean, in your workplace, how many people do you work with a day and variation? How many?
Well, if I'm in the office, like just how many's in our group in general?
Yeah.
About 25.
So that's a good spread.
Yes.
Of age, background, everything.
Yes. And we've got I do feel very fortunate. I love what I do at the VA, and we work with a great group of people, and they're counselors. And they are, every one of them are really, really good to work with. And some have younger kids, and one kid, I love him to death. He came in and he said, you're like the big sister I never had. And I was like, all right, and then one day last week, my son came and he asked how old he was. And he said, that's how old I am too. And he's like, you could be my mom. And I said, hey, let's go back to the big sister. But I like it's weird when I'm, these guys could be my kids, but they're fantastic, and I'm very fortunate. That's why I love going to work. I love seeing my friends and being around people. I much prefer it to working at home, sitting here all by myself every day. And I think that's a lot of it. People have gotten used to not having to drive and not having to leave their house, and that's a big
You
part.
would prefer being home.
No, no.
Oh, okay.
No, if it wasn't an
I
hour
just
drive, I
wanted to
would go
clarify
into
that,
the office every day.
because I
Yeah.
couldn't see you
Yeah.
alone that long.
No,
You're a people person. Even
Yeah.
on our show, I get all the mail and the feedback just like you do. Everybody enjoys you. Well, let's
Well,
do another commercial and then we'll
all
come right back. The other commercial is again about what we're offering. If you go to my website, GianniRusso.com. I mean, Jeannie, maybe you should be telling them how to get to me because I don't even really know.
well, you can go to HollywoodGodfather.com and you can go in there. That'll link you to, so you can get the products right here, the vodka, all the different Genco or Genco olive oil, or the sauces are fantastic. The vodka is wonderful. So if you're somewhere you can get that, even if you don't want to drink it, the bottle is let me just grab it because it's cool. Well, I'll just show you all of them since we're right here.
Okay.
That one, but let me show you the coolest, which I won't let anybody touch. I had to, we drank one, and this one's off limits. Oh, the light's shining on it.
Well,
But
and that's so people know who see it. That's not a wine. That's a
no,
vodka.
it is
And
vodka.
and the good news about it, the Robb Report in 23 picked it as one of the best vodkas in the world.
Yes, it sure did.
And to help a friend of mine is an All Star Wines and Spirits right outside of Albany. All Star Wines and Spirits. You can actually go online and buy it, and he'll ship it to you. He has a license to sell it. I can't sell it, but
Right.
he has a special license. But
Our website.
I thought there was you can just go to our website too, just my name, GianniRusso.com also.
GianniRusso.com. Yes, and I'll put the links will be right in our show notes, so you can go right there and click on those, and that'll get you right to the place. So
Yeah.
and I'll have the link for the cameos, for the just our website. You could ask a question, you can rate and review, you can share it with a friend. So it's all on there. But your now the sales from the Gianni Russo goes, you're sending that to charity this year, right?
Yeah, it's called Gianni Believes You Can. And we're giving special scholarships to needy children. And we find that out through schools that I have associations with. And they let us know. And then we monitor that, even their grades, and know that they're grateful for it. But so a big portion of that is to GianniBelievesYouCan.com. It's a .org. So if you buy it, you're actually buying a gift indirectly to educate someone, and you get the write-off on it, even if it's a $30 gift or whatever else. You could write it off on your income tax. So I feel very good about that.
Oh, I do too. That's wonderful. My mother told me last week, she said there's a shelter downtown and that they'll let the people stay in the shelter at night, but during the day they have to stay outside. And she said there's mothers and their babies under tarps all day long, just sitting out there. And I just thought, my goodness. So what you're doing is fantastic. If it's helping somebody, I think that's great, Gianni. And there's so many people.
You know what's so strange? Here we are. We're not a fourth world country.
Yeah.
So many of our citizens who went through all the procedures like my ancestors came, and they don't have any privileges.
Right.
I want to know what the mentality, and I don't want to get political. I don't know what the mentality is of our government giving these people who migrated here illegally. They're getting credit cards. They're staying in four-star hotels in New York, staying. We have veterans freezing on the street right now. And you should know that better than anybody because that's who you work with.
Oh, yes, I do. I started to read something came across the thing today that said they're going to be building some apartments somewhere or shelters for veterans. And I did hear that recently that money that was supposed to be going to veterans was going to help other people and not going to the veterans as it should be during this last little reign. So I hope to hear that get turned around, because I know the people that come in, I'm so happy. You know, I always tell people, I'm like, I didn't serve in the armed forces, but I'm serving these veterans every day, and I'm so happy to do it. And
Well, yeah, you have such an enlightening job. And most people, I don't know who knows it or not, but you know, Jeannie was a fan of the show.
Mhm.
And my old co-host and co-writer got to know her because he's a veteran. And basically, he led us to believe he actually knew you. But it was so crazy because you have this personality. And I could understand once I saw you why he thought that. But, you know,
yeah.
even being an administrator for the veterans, it's a big job. They need so much help. And I'm glad that this new, I have to say his name, Donald Trump,
Yeah.
he's going to go and help all this and change it. I
Yeah.
hope so, because these are the people who give us our freedom, give us our rights, and why should they be suffering at all?
Right.
Sacrifice for us, Vietnam, whatever war it was. It's terrible.
Right. Well, you know,
I didn't want the show to be a political platform, but
no,
now I think we got to yell it from the rooftops. Wake up.
right. Well, and especially recognize the good. And I know even since I've been there, you know, I know the different things that have come along, and the way times have changed from like the Vietnam veterans to the veterans now. And people will come in and just the what they see in the transition of what the way they're treated, they're really, you know, appreciating the help, and I love that. But yeah, you know, the thing about that is, Gianni, I have my only superpower is if I meet somebody, I don't normally, for the most part, if I see a face and I meet them, I don't forget them. And that my friend and I will go places and I'll be like, didn't I meet you? And it'll be 30, 40 years ago. And
wow.
and I will remember that. And so I do. I guess that's kind of what they say, you never meet a stranger, because I do. I like people, and I like helping them, whether it be at work or you know, day before yesterday, I had a neighbor call me and she dropped her hearing aid and needed somebody to help her move her couch. So, you know,
Oh, that's right. That's great.
but no, I'm thankful. I'm thankful COVID is gone. I'm thankful.
That's more important, you know.
Yeah.
Don't just take it for granted. Be thankful. I'm thankful for everything I have. I pray 5, 6 times a day. Just thank you. You know, because I'm watching what's going on.
That's right.
Well, everybody out there, we appreciate you. Please send recommendations, the cards, the letters, programs you want to hear about. I hope we're not getting too political, but there's some callings like when Steve Meyerson said to me about these kids. I'm watching it myself, but I don't know if we control it. I think it's out of control now.
Yeah.
The access to social media and that we don't control.
Right. Well, I find it's turned
people
to jerks. I keep thinking, I wish we could have a moratorium, either 1 day a week, where people just couldn't write crappy things to each other on the internet. I have found that people think that they can say anything they want. They're horrible. It doesn't. There was a darling video of a little girl with her dad, and I could totally relate because I've got a little grandbaby that loves to sing. She's 2 years old and she'll sing every song with the radio. And the dad had her in the back of the car in those razors, you know, little outdoor RV things. and he was singing with her, and it was darling, and the baby was in the back seat in a car seat, buckled in, and the only thing people had to say was the buckle on the thing was too low, and started a big thing. And I just wanted to find that person and
They
tell
look for
them.
the negative. They look for the negative.
Yeah, everybody, if you're listening to the show, do your best to be nice. It's free. It doesn't cost you a dime to be nice. You don't have to tell
And
us.
you feel better about yourself.
Oh, and to write some nasty thing on the, and then of course it was like, whoo, dog pile on her, because everybody was like, it's a little girl singing with her dad. Be happy they're together, you know? So that's the one thing I think that with the times have changed. Everybody's got such rotten things to say. So I think like every Monday, people should only say nice things.
That's a good thought to leave everybody with until next week.
That's
Thank you all. Keep the cards and letters coming in. Get the information from our website of anything you're interested in. We really appreciate you all, and God bless, please.
All right. Have a good night. Check the show notes. Share our podcast with a friend. We like the followers. Have a great night.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jeannie.
Yeah. Good night.
And that was that. But I'll be back.
No regrets, no complaints. Lived a life with no restraints.